Good evening, DeFi Chain gang, and very welcome to the newest episode of the DeFi Chain Fireside Chat. I'm very excited to be here today. We've got an exciting guest. Before I bring him in, maybe a couple of housekeeping items. If you like the show, leave us a like. That always helps the algorithm. Share the show on all channels. Leave us beside the like. Click on the bell notification that you don't miss any of the further shows. Yeah, and subscribe to the channel in case you haven't done it. I know about 30% have never subscribed to this amazing channel. The guy that is joining me in a couple of minutes, he is one of the new kids on the block. He's not so new. He started about 4 months ago in our ecosystem. He's got an exciting story to tell. And without any further ado, Liam, welcome to the show, the big unreal here. How are you doing?
What's up, mate? How are we? I'm good. How's everything going?
Cool. Everything great here. Hey, I'm really happy to have you. It took me quite a while to get you on the show. You were kind of very resistant. You said you want to wait a little bit, but even better that you're here now. Where are you right now?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm in marketing. Marketing's in the background, usually not in the front, so that's why.
I hope at least the product's in the foreground if you're in the background. Are
Yeah, no.
you're in Europe,
But
right?
yeah, I'm based in the Netherlands, so I'm originally
Mm.
British. That's why I sound the way I do, and not with a Dutch accent. But yeah, I've lived in the Netherlands for the last almost 3 years now.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. A couple of
Yeah,
people from around DeFi Chain are in the Netherlands. Fabio is also up there somewhere.
yeah. He's about, I think, an hour and a half away from me. That was about the last time I dropped him home. So.
Ah, cool. So DeFi, a big DeFi Chain hub in the Netherlands forming right now. Maybe there's a pattern. That's going to be interesting to talk about. Liam,
Yeah, be nice.
we have always kind of a certain pattern that we follow. We don't have to stick too strictly to that. We want to keep it a light conversation. The idea is really this is not kind of an interview. Like I said, I want to give you a stage to present yourself to the community. I think the community is really stoked to learn about you. This DeFi Chain Labs story is a brand new thing. We're going to talk about this in the second part of our little conversation. I don't want to start with DeFi Chain, even as a DeFi Chain channel, because it's anyway always about DeFi Chain. For me, it's really interesting to learn a little bit, or the community wants to learn a little bit about you. This is not a job interview, but still, I'm gonna ask you: can you tell me a little bit where do we come from? What's remarkable about you? Kind of, yeah, that people can put everything a little bit better in perspective.
So this is now the 2 minute spiel that I give in the job interview, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. So I'm from the UK originally, specifically from Liverpool, as you can probably tell by the
Mm,
banner here.
okay.
Whichever way that I can't figure out from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
camera
that's
which way to
perfect.
go.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
So from Liverpool, lived there until I was about 21, and then I moved to Abu Dhabi in United Arab Emirates. Lived there for around 7.5, 8 years, and then
Oh,
decided I
okay.
wanted to come back to Europe. So I did the move, funnily enough, during COVID, that thing that happened a very long time ago, it feels like now. Um, so yeah, lived in the Netherlands for the last 2 to 3 years. Let's see, career wise, originally started off in the fitness industry.
Mm.
Um, I studied in university with a bachelor's in sports therapy, so that's kind of like physiotherapy, but more aimed towards sports injuries themselves. I had a few years in there. I actually was fortunate enough to work for Liverpool football team themselves for a
Ah, okay,
year.
cool.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, one of my favorite little party lines is I've rubbed many famous footballers' legs. I just like to say that without context, but I was a masseuse
I
for
just want to
Liverpool.
say, I hope we didn't develop a certain fetish out of that.
Thankfully not, no. But yeah, so I did that for a year where I was just basically a masseuse with the reserve team for those who would be familiar with the setup of football teams. Then basically I moved into fitness. I was a personal trainer for uh, 8, 9 years, probably closer to 10 if I really think hard. So I did that for 2 to 3 years in Liverpool. Then that's what took me to Abu Dhabi. Moved to a gym there. Um, Worked for a gym for maybe 3 years when I first moved there, and then started up my own business, running like a one-to-one personal training thing. Um, then kind of got fed up of telling people what to eat, what to do in the gym. Got a bit boring, same conversations over and over. Thankfully, as part of being my own business, I was doing a lot of marketing stuff naturally. Uh, I was quite fortunate; I was pretty good at it, so people kept asking me to help them with their marketing. Then, when I got bored of being in fitness, I was involved in crypto for a couple of years. And I was like, crypto's pretty cool. It'd be nice if I get a job there. And then basically got a job originally in social media with a company called Coinly. And then that eventually took me to where I am now, head of marketing at DeFi Chain Labs.
Wow, hell of a ride. Hey, that's really exciting. I think there's a lot of things we want to talk about today. Hey, how is it living in Holland?
Yeah, it's great. It's so coming from Britain, it's very similar in terms of like the
Okay.
weather, the culture. Obviously, there's some slight differences, but I basically always say the Netherlands is like what Britain pretends to be, especially right now with the current situation in Britain. I'm not going to bring politics into it, but
Now
Brexit,
we leave
Brexit
that
was
aside.
quote unquote a great idea.
Okay, cool. So you really enjoy living there? No plans to go back to Britain, or is this still on your radar?
Once I left the UK, I was dying to get out of the UK, and once I
Okay.
got out, I was like never going back. But one of the reasons I came to the Netherlands as well is that I've got family here. My mother, my stepfather, and my sisters, they've lived
Mm,
here for like 13, 14 years. So I've been coming to the Netherlands on and off for the last 13, 14 years. Um, so it was like a second home to me. So I think Netherlands. The plan is to stay in Netherlands and settle down. I've just bought a house, so I now have to stay for at least a little bit
cool, cool.
longer. So yeah, that's the plan.
How's your Dutch?
Ik spreek een beetje Nederlands. Niet te veel, but yeah, I speak a little bit.
Okay.
Definitely not the same level as Fabio, but I can hold a basic conversation.
Ah, that's the most important thing to do. Do you
Yeah,
cycle? You know, I'm a passionate cyclist, so that's the question I ask everybody. And Netherlands is very famous for to be cycling friendly, right?
yeah, 100%. It definitely is. But the funny thing is, I don't cycle.
Uh-oh.
I just drive because I live in the countryside, so like
Okay.
you can't really have a. There's no real close facilities. When I get to the new place, I'll be cycling a lot more. So I have actually been toying with the idea of getting like a road bike and taking that up as a bit of thing around fitness because I haven't been playing football for a while, so I need something in my life that keeps me going. So I might have to hit you up on some advice for bikes.
I'm very happy to share some information. But it's good to know that you're a fitness coach, so there might be some interesting topics evolving over time. So you said you're not
Yeah.
doing any sport at the moment. So besides rubbing footballers' legs, you played football for yourself, or was it like always a passive hobby for you?
No, I grew up playing football like since I was like 5 years of age. I absolutely love playing football. It's only since being an adult and the usual stuff creeps in and you end up letting things slide. So I think when I get to my new place, I'll be going back to football after a little bit of training to get my fitness up. So, but yeah, I've been playing it since I was like 5 years of age. Always been playing for teams. I even had a trial at Liverpool when I was younger. So
Oh,
I
wow.
was really, yeah, unfortunately didn't make it. So I didn't make the big bucks that the footballers make. But um, yeah, no, it's definitely not a passive sport for me. It's just at this moment, I'm very much an armchair fan right now.
Okay, but the die-hard one. I mean, flags all over the place, even wearing a Liverpool jersey. Cool.
Yeah, that was not meant, by the way. I just literally grabbed a t-shirt that was clean, and then I had to
And they are
move
all
the.
Liverpool shirts anyway in your closet, so it didn't.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
Liverpool final. So
Awesome, awesome. I'm shit when it comes to football, but Austrian football is not the most world famous football nation. I guess we are better in skiing and stuff, right? Yeah,
yeah, for
cool.
sure.
Football, great. So no football at the moment. Netherlands. You said you're moving to a new place soon.
Yeah, so I live in. I don't know how many people are going to be familiar with the Netherlands geography, but because everyone asks me, do I live in Amsterdam? But no, I
Yeah,
don't.
exactly. I think that's what everybody knows. Amsterdam and Rotterdam, and that's it, right?
Exactly. But funnily enough, I'm moving closer to. So I live right now closer to Amsterdam, maybe like 20, 30 minutes on a drive. And then I'm going to be moving closer to Rotterdam. But that's like same thing, 20, 30 minutes. So I'm in a place called Alkmaar right now. And then I'll be moving to a place called Gouda, which is in South Holland. So
Sounds also like a
anyone,
very famous place, right?
but you know the cheese, there's Gouda cheese, or maybe Gouda's,
So yeah, we in German Austria we say Gouda, yeah. Yeah, that's so
yeah.
that's
So
coming from that region now.
exactly, yeah. So if you want some cheese, I'll be living in the place with that's very known for the cheese.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm gonna come back. Thanks for the offer. Cool. So moving to Gouda. Cool. Hey, Liam,
Yeah.
the story that we didn't touch in the middle was the UAE Dubai. So UAE Dubai is very crypto friendly as well. But I think when you were there, you were not really involved into crypto, right? This was still when you did your fitness engagement there.
Yeah, so it wasn't until around 2019, 2020 I got involved in crypto. So
Okay.
even yeah, even back then Dubai was not known for it. It's only really recent, maybe the last year or two that they've really gone for this. So I started investing just at the last bit that I was living there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so sorry, now I've forgotten what the question was, if there was a question.
Was crypto at that time when you were there something that was like crypto is really known as a crypto sorry, Dubai is really known as a crypto city. And when I was there, I think maybe because I live in this bubble, I had the feeling I saw a lot of stuff about crypto happening there. When you were there, was this a big topic already, or was it still more or less under the radar and it just developed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, no, it was definitely under the radar. I think I remember seeing maybe as I was leaving, so I actually left in 2021. They
Okay.
just started to create like what they call the free zone, which is kind of like an area in Dubai itself where like it has special laws, and it's basically the idea is to make trade easier. They set up a free zone related to blockchain.
Hmm.
Um, I think that was probably the most that I heard about it, but everyone that I knew was not very clued up on blockchain. I probably had one friend that I could really talk to about crypto, but that was it. Like no one really ever knew about it, and I think maybe now it's a little bit more mainstream over there, but um, still probably not the levels as
Just a
what
developing
people.
story at that time, right? Did you enjoy living in the United Arab Emirates? How was it for you? I mean, I was there once. It was super interesting, but on the other side also very hot and like extremely hot compared to Singapore.
Yeah.
How did you survive there? I mean, 50 degrees in summertime is not a joke, right?
Oh yeah, summertime is horrific. It's not only like almost 50 degrees, so it's also at night. So what happens is I don't know if you've been in the summer at all, but like don't go in like June, July, August, probably not even September. So at nighttime you have the heat, so it probably drops maybe 2 or 3 degrees. But then you also have the humidity on top of that, which goes to like 80, 90%. So, you know, the feel factor really shoots up at night because you can't sweat. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you are sweating, but it's not doing the job it's supposed to. It's supposed to
Yeah,
cool you down. But
yeah.
because it doesn't evaporate, you're just basically boiling on the inside. So it is
sounds
horrible.
really pleasant, hey?
Yeah, yeah. The weather in the summer is horrific. It's doable because obviously there's a lot of AC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You just kind of remain inside. Like I don't have a tan during summer. It's the weirdest thing. I have a tan during winter when I live there because it's very pleasant. It's like a European summertime.
Mhm.
But in the summer you just can't go outside. So I end up I've got pale white skin anyway, so I end up like really pale in the summer and nice and tanned in the winter. It's really weird being a European and having that situation. But yeah, no, apart from the weather in the summer, I absolutely loved it. I would definitely recommend people if you get the opportunity to go do it. I know it's got a lot of bad rap in the press and stuff like that from time to time, but it is very European these days. It's very like such a chilled lifestyle as well. I would say don't go to Dubai. I like Dubai, but it's a nice place to visit, not a place to live. Um, Whereas Abu Dhabi, where I lived, was very much like a very nice, chilled out, big city.
Yeah, I experienced this. Abu Dhabi was like really, really quiet compared to Dubai. Dubai was very loud and in your face, and I had the feeling it's all about big brand names, gold chains, gold watches, and big cars. And this is like what you see on TV, but it was really like this when you were there. It's like so in your face that is really annoying. I mean, there's a lot of money in
Yeah,
Singapore as well, but there it's like loud, right? Balmain shirts all the time, and it's like crazy. And
yeah, 100%. Dubai's the try hard of the two. So like Abu Dhabi actually has the real money, but they don't
hmm
flash it so much. I mean, obviously you still see like the Lamborghinis, the Rolls Royces
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
Like I think before I'd moved, I've only ever seen a Rolls Royce twice in my life in the UK, and then when I went to Abu Dhabi, I saw like five in one day in the first day that I was there. So I was like, this is weird. But like Dubai is very much the show off place. So if you want to go show you have money type thing, it's like you go to Dubai.
Yeah, and Abu Dhabi was far more relaxed and people kind of not showing it off so much. Yeah, I've been at this at
Yeah,
the big mosque in Abu Dhabi wearing a
right.
original white kind of dress. It was really pleasant. I was
Condora.
very sorry.
Condora.
Yeah, the Condora, right? I bought
Yeah.
one, and yeah, because we stayed at this hotel in the desert, the Casa El Arab. I don't know if you know that. It's like this
Yeah.
castle in the desert, and it was a really nice place to be. And I was wearing it there for some traditional evening, and I found it's really awesome dress. It's so in daytime. There's a lot of airflow. In wintertime, it keeps you warm. It's I really understand why they wear it. There's a lot of sense behind that clothing, actually.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like it actually really is comfortable. I've got one here at my house, because obviously my fiance she's Egyptian as well, so she's like
Ah,
very
okay.
much into the culture. So we've got like all the Arab clothes still from Abu Dhabi. But yeah, the kanduras are surprisingly very comfortable and airy, especially in the
So
summer.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Fantastic design. It's really good.
yeah, if it wasn't pale white, I'd be wearing it a lot more in the summer heat. Put it that
Otherwise, you
way.
look like a ghost, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
you kind of miss living over there. It sounds like you really fell in love with the region.
Yeah, 100%. Like I would go back in a heartbeat. To be honest, it was only because of just the joyous situation of COVID that basically I was like,
Mm.
I think at the time I was running my business, but because it's like face to face contact that I had, I couldn't really continue that in COVID. So
hmm
thankfully, I was doing marketing at the same time as doing PT. So um, I basically closed down my business on the PT side and just stayed on marketing. But then I was kind of like I kind of miss the sense of security that you get in Europe sometimes. So especially because like over there you don't pay over in the UAE you don't pay taxes, so you just kind of you're on your own type thing, kind of US style. Whereas like in Europe you pay taxes, so you've got a little bit of a security net.
hmm
So I could do with going back to Europe and being a little bit more comfortable. Plus, you can settle down in Europe a little bit better than you can in the UAE. The UAE doesn't have the current regulations to allow you to settle permanently unless you're a multi-millionaire, and I am not.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But also be staying in the UAE forever is quite tricky, right? They've got some visas, I think some kind of golden visas or something like this.
Yeah, now they've just started coming out with the golden visas, which last time I checked were around 10 years. It might have increased now, but again, you need to have like multi millions in the bank or invest in a property, which is going to cost you millions anyway.
Mm.
So it's only really for the rich, but I know that they are trying to change to allow more foreigners to settle easily, more easily. Um, so maybe in the next 10, 15 years, they'll have proper channels for people to stay more permanently. So
Exactly, because that's what I've heard. There's a big turnover, of course, because people come there for a job or for a project, and then there's no way how they can stay easily for a long time. So they all kind of leave Dubai. And a very similar situation that we have in Singapore, right? So if you don't have money or a job, I mean, even if you have a money, okay, you can set up your own business, but also this is kind of restricted. It's not so easy to just say, okay, I want to live in Singapore. You really need something to do here. Otherwise, you're out. It's not like Thailand or some other Asian countries where you just kind of sneak in and you stay on a tourist visa or something like this. It's not working in the UAE as well, right?
Yeah, definitely the case. Like same situation in UAE.
Mm.
You get your job and the company sponsors you to be there. So you have it's usually a 2 year visa, I think. And then one if you get fired or let go or whatever, you probably got maybe 30 I think 30 to 60 days to sort out a new job, which especially in this current climate would not be enough. So um, yeah, it becomes a bit of a hassle. I was quite fortunate because once you establish your own business, you get a little bit longer. I think I had 3 years.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I'm a bit more secure that way. But it is a bit of a pain to be coupled, having your visa coupled with your work. Right? It's just not good because then you're
Yeah.
at the mercy of the company. But I think they're also changing that as well, from what I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes complete sense. That's a big problem here as well. Cool. So, very interesting background story. Let me know, how did you get into crypto? So who kind of converted you, or what was the driver for you to get? I mean, I understand the story. You were in fitness industry and you were looking for something else, but why then crypto? What was appealing to you? Why did you end up in that industry? There are a lot of industries that could make you some money.
So the funny thing is, I remember years ago, maybe in 2015, I actually originally heard of crypto. I remember I
Mm,
was listening to a podcast, one of those typical like business guru, blah blah, terrible podcast things, and they were talking about Bitcoin. And I remember sitting there thinking, I was in the car and I was listening to this conversation about Bitcoin. I think it was around $300 back then. I was like, why on earth would you invent this currency when we have dollars and stuff? Like, what's the point? And I remember just like thinking, this is just nonsense. And I think I actually stopped listening to that podcast just because of that, because they kept bringing it up all the time. But then it wasn't until maybe 2019, 2020, whenever that bull market was really starting to just take off. My stepdad would basically he bought some Bitcoin, and then he basically gave me 50 euros worth of it to get me started. And then that was pretty much it. I was hooked, line and sinker. For the last few years before that as well, I'd always been interested in like investing generally, and looking at finances and trying to see where I could actually save some money rather than just blow it every week. So yeah, I think that's when I really started to get involved. I really went down the rabbit hole
hmm.
after I got that fit with Bitcoin, and I just went into the technology side of things. I went basically like through the whole, probably the typical transition of like, you buy Bitcoin and then you see some YouTubers say, oh, there's this new coin that's faster and better than Bitcoin. You're like, oh, this Bitcoin's a dinosaur. Then like, okay, let me go down the altcoin route. I went in, probably bought all these different altcoins, tried out numerous different like liquidity pools and stuff like that. Got burned massively, and then basically came to the full circle of I'm just going to stick to Bitcoin and Ethereum and maybe have a couple of altcoins as bets. So it basically ended up coming full circle. But no, yeah, I think one of the things that I got really liked about crypto was the potential behind the technology. Once I kind of saw that side of things, like I do get a bit annoyed around the price action and like all the different tribalisms between different coins and stuff like that, or different projects rather. But I think ultimately the technology is there to do a lot better with system versus systems that we have today. Um, so I think when I went to a company called Protocol Labs, which was before I got involved with DeFi Chain Lab, that really truly opened my mind to what we could do potentially with the technology there. Sorry, I don't know if my camera is freezing there or not.
Yeah, it's
But
coming
yeah,
back now.
so
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. So yeah, when I was there, basically, I got very much involved in. It's kind of like the green pill side of crypto. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's essentially like using blockchain technology to make the environment better, improve things like public goods, which will public goods. The best way I can describe it, if you're not familiar, is like the road systems, the telephone cables. We all use those on a daily basis, but it's owned by the public and used by the public, hence the term public goods. But obviously, in blockchain, that doesn't mean we're going to fix the roads and things like that with crypto. Basically, what it means is that the tools that we use in crypto on a daily basis are considered the public goods. One of the best examples is like the internet. So, like the internet is very centralized. Guess where blockchain is based on? It's based on the internet, right? So, we need to kind of build the infrastructure, the public good of the internet, make it better, make it more decentralized. So that's kind of like these are the real real side of blockchain that really interests me, away from the typical price action and looking at like the typical projects that basic that kind of maybe like away from the world of like the coins, NFTs, that type of thing. So it's like, what can we actually do with blockchain that really helps people from on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. Because you mentioned NFTs, did you get into the NFT hype, or was this something that like really passed you without really getting involved? So, for example, for me, I never. I mean, I think the idea about NFTs is cool, but I don't know a lot about NFTs. I think there are really good use cases, but I haven't seen these use cases yet. It was more like buying some artwork or some monkey or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I mean, if you make money on that, fair enough, right? So I don't wanna say that's a bad thing, but it was never my thing. How was the NFT story for you the last couple of 2 years? Yeah, last 2 years actually.
Yeah, the PFP side of NFTs, I'm not really into. I understand maybe from like an artist side why you would be into NFTs, and if you're into collecting them, that's cool. I kind of see at this point like I don't know, baseball cards or like the football cards when I grew up. It's like collectibles at this point, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any real value other than what someone else would perceive the value of that collectible. But I think when, again, going back to my Protocol Lab days, we had a lot of stuff around NFTs. And we would use the NFT technology for specific use cases around. Um, Probably the best way to describe it is like carbon credits. So the way like
Hmm.
certain companies, they offset their carbon loads, I think is the correct term, by buying these carbon credits. The best example is Tesla right now, where like they sell a ton of different carbon credits to other companies so they can offset their carbon loads. So we kind of use NFTs to develop different side of that, where like it was based around research. So essentially you could fund research via an NFT. So it would be a fractional NFT. So there'd be like, let's say you were a researcher and you wanted to research a different use case for a medicine that's out now. I don't know, let's say paracetamol. Let's say you think that
Hmm.
paracetamol might cure a different disease, but the pharmaceutical companies won't put the money into the research to see if it will, because they're not going to make money out of it. Paracetamol is, anyone can make it. Well, anyone with a license can make it. So there's no money to be made from a pharmaceutical company side of things. So what we were doing is we were working with projects where like they would release NFTs, which had like the typical nice art style, but the purpose was of buying a fraction of this NFT was to help fund this researcher conduct
Hmm.
this research around
Hmm.
what would paracetamol actually cure another disease. So that's one example where like NFTs can do a little bit more versus the typical art collector and those monkey what are they called, uh, Board Ape Yacht Club or whatever it was.
Hmm.
So I've seen other use cases where like you can verify certificates, um, and like I think actually in Germany there was some hospital or some um, medical records were on the Ethereum network, so you can verify patients' data on the blockchain.
And
So
that's a
I
good
think,
use case, right? Stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Like
Mm.
NFTs are actually, from what I understand and what I've learned, they can be very, very useful beyond our collectibles and those profile pictures. So I think there's potential behind it. I never got into the NFT scene the way that people traditionally did. I do like the technology. One of my friends is working on a really cool project that I will give a shout out. It's called Hypersets, which is kind of like what I just talked about around the research and carbon credits. Um, so if you want to see what NFTs can really do and how it can actually help uh, create better systems for humans in general, I would go check out that side of things.
Cool.
So yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So, okay, so not an NFT guy. Okay, something common here. So you said you went full circle. I think that's also a very common story, right? We all get into Bitcoin and we see all these new shiny objects. We think they're all better and there can be much more money to be made. And then at the end, we all come back and become a very boring crypto investor and stick to the big ones and maybe then another altcoin like DeFi chain in that case, but with a close connection to Bitcoin. So how did you get in touch with DeFi chain? Not one of the most well-known projects out there, and maybe not one of the projects where you say everybody knows it. Of course, I want to work for this thing because it's so big, everybody knows it anyway, right? We are not the Mercedes-Benz of
Yeah.
of crypto. So how did that happen? How did you come across the project?
So funnily, I actually came across DeFi Chain maybe in 2020, 2021. So like this, the services like Cake and Nexo and
Mm-hmm.
the now defunct Celsius and stuff
Yeah,
like
all the
that.
C DeFi players. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was looking at like these different things. I think I remember signing up to Cake around that time. Um, and I think they had the Learn and Earn campaign with DFI.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that, some sort of promotion. I can't quite remember, but I remember seeing it, and I remember doing a little bit of like a dive into the project. But I ended up just basically going. I think I put my crypto into Nexo at the time, so I kind of ignored Cake and DeFi Chain at that point. So then, yeah, so then it kind of came back up on my radar when I left Protocol Labs. I was looking for a new position, and then I had an interview with the guys in the DeFi chain space. So then I went. I remember that I knew the project, but I just couldn't remember what it was at the time. So then I took like as I normally do, I just go into a deep dive, learning things, and I was like learning about how it's a hard fork of Bitcoin and it's essentially tied to the Bitcoin blockchain. And I was like, this is really cool. This is like I've always thought the best combination you could have is having the security of Bitcoin with like the flexibility of Ethereum. And when they said that that's essentially what they're working towards, I was like, okay, now I'm in. This is like something exciting. This is exactly what I wanted in terms of my ideal. And then to work on a project. First of all, I wanted to work on a blockchain project anyway, since I got interested in crypto. Um, but then to work on a project that combines what my ideal situation in the crypto world would be, then that's like a nice little dream there. So yeah, that's kind of how it all kind of came about and the journey.
Okay, understand. Who did you interview with at this time?
Oh my god, this is going to seem so bad. I hope she's not watching it now because I can't remember, remember
Okay, we
the
don't
name.
wanna. Okay, for
It was
security reason, we are not
Deepti.
disclosing any names here.
Yeah, I'm terrible. The one thing that you'll learn about me is I'm terrible with names. I can remember faces, but I just can't remember names. So
I
I'm
know what
really
you're
bad at that.
talking about. Okay, okay, good, cool. So and then you started, and that's about four. That was about 4 months ago. How was your
Yeah.
how was your journey so far? Because now we have a lot of changes, right? This DeFi Chain Labs that you maybe can explain also a little bit better. I mean, there was a lot of stuff published recently, and Fabio spoke about it. But when you came, there was no DeFi Chain Labs, right? So take me a little bit through the last 4 months, what happened and what were the changes and what's then also the outlook for the future. I think that's what everybody is excited to hear.
Yeah, of course. This is where everyone now picks up and gets really interested, right? They've done the bullshit of the last 30 minutes or whatever. So
You will see, we will see on the Google Analytics then what the people are really watching. What are the most watched moments?
skip,
I
skip,
bet
skip,
I
skip.
bet the beginning is always exciting, the private story. So I think it's not always the DeFi chain stuff.
That's so good. I'm just messing around. Yeah. So when I came in, I was originally part of Birthday Research. So
Mm-hmm.
title is head of marketing, and I was head of marketing within Birthday Research, but focused on DeFi chain. That was
Okay.
the only thing I was focused on. So um, then basically what happened was is as we're kind of like developing our growth strategies and basically looking at how can we grow DeFi chain, we noticed that there was like a little bit of friction between us representing Birthday Research and then basically talking to partners, and they couldn't. There's no instant connection to DeFi chain, the blockchain. So
Mm-hmm.
typical thing in crypto is like if you look at certain projects, usually they have either like a foundation or a quote unquote labs that is connected to the or connected to the blockchain and is responsible for that blockchain's growth and the functionality of that. So a good example is like Avalanche with Ava Labs and Polygon with Polygon Labs. Um, so generally you have like, in the name, it suggests which chain that you're attached to. But there was a little bit of friction between Birthday Research working on DeFi chain. So initially we were like, we need to reduce this barrier a little bit so that it's kind of instantly connects with people, especially because some of the partners that we were talking to might not always be crypto natives,
Mm-hmm.
even though they work in the crypto industry. So this is where the conversation really started, and then basically it kind of then started to evolve in terms of like, okay, well, you know, DeFi Chain Labs. So we coming up with the name of DeFi Chain Labs, and we were like, okay, this is cool. That will reduce a lot of friction. Then it started to evolve into a deeper conversation around decentralization. So everything in crypto ideally should be decentralized. You can argue at which point how decentralized things really are, but we were trying to basically make it so that there was less connection between the Cake group itself and DeFi chain. So that's the kind of the initial concept. So we then went ahead with this idea of DeFi Chain Labs to essentially be able to decentralize away and be more independent and focus purely just on the blockchain itself and the growth side of things and the development as well. So DeFi Chain Labs itself, I hope I'm not skipping ahead for any of your questions here, but DeFi Chain Labs itself is made up of two teams. There's the growth team, which I head up, and then there's the core developer team, which is
Mm-hmm.
like Prasanna. So
Mm-hmm.
most people know Prasanna. I can probably say that, and everyone knows who I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so on my side, on the growth side, it's kind of split between within that growth team, we've got two kind of verticals there. We've got the marketing side, which is what I'm responsible for as well, and then on the other side is like the product development side,
Okay.
and also like developer relations right now. So um, everyone knows Fabio. Fabio is in my team. He's the head of community, and then on the other side, sorry, and then also there's Florian, who's our content writer. He was in a Twitter space, I think, last week or the week before.
Mm-hmm.
So people might be familiar with him. You might start to see a little bit more from him as well. So that's like the marketing side. Then on the other side of the growth team is Via as the product lead. He's the one who's always in the spaces with me. So that's where you'd be familiar with him. Then we have under Via, we have Frederick, who is the technical product manager, and also Swanaba, who is our fairly new developer relations role. So yeah, that's kind of like how we're made up and kind of the evolution that it's taken on. So there'll be more to come in the future around DeFi Chain Labs and how it's progressing. But the ultimate goal is to be more decentralized and independent, so that we can just focus on growing the blockchain.
Okay. So DeFi Chain Labs is a service unit in some way to promote DeFi Chain and also build and develop DeFi
Yeah,
Chain because that the
exactly. Yeah, so
developers are also included in that team, right? Okay.
100%. Yeah, so development and growth is the easiest way to describe it.
Okay. Fantastic. Sounds good. Um, who is paying the bills of DeFi Chain? How does this work? I've got asked a couple of times already. So somebody has to keep the lights on there. So where's the money coming from? Are these donations? Is there a clear commitment from another company? Is this CFPs in the future? What's the idea? If you can
Again,
talk
this
about
is
that,
kind
I don't know.
yeah, this is kind of like the discussions that are kind of ongoing. Is like because obviously we've been uh, funded quite a lot from Cake at the minute, so we're kind of looking at okay, to be decentralized, we need to find some sort of funding. So
Okay.
this kind of goes a little bit above my head because it's above my pay grade, but um, yeah, I know that there's discussion in terms of like how can we then be decentralized but also be funded at the same time. So there's conversation, I think, conversations around grants and stuff like that, maybe
Mm.
donations, maybe even CFPs, but there's no clear answer right now. We're still kind of discussing that, so I can't really
So
answer that question.
everything is possible in the future, right? So if somebody wants to support DeFi chain development, then you guys are very happy to take. If there's some money coming in, you wouldn't say no to it, right? Because it has to be funded in some way. People want to get
Yeah,
their salary.
exactly.
Yeah.
As long as there's no the idea is I think we'd be open to funding in some way, shape, or form. But I think as long as there's no strings attached that develop
Mm.
that would then be detrimental to what we do. So, yeah, the funding mechanisms would be totally open. So,
Okay. Cool.
yeah,
Cool. Now, interesting. I think it's very important that we have a entity that is doing the things that you guys are doing, because we saw, I think, in a lot of big projects out there, they were maybe less decentralized in DeFi chain. They had a big company standing behind it and driving it. I mean, of course, Cake did a lot of great stuff for DeFi chain, but there was like, I don't know, looking at Cardano or whatever, we know these are companies in some way, and they have a lot of power to push through because there's just a huge team doing these things. So I'm very happy to see this evolving now and to see people taking action here. Where do you
yeah.
see the biggest, I don't want to say failures, where do you see the biggest weakness that you guys are working on kind of to get out there? I think how I don't want to sound bitter or negative, but I think they could have done much more also in the past. We all, let me give you an example. There was the blockchain conference in Singapore, and people said, "Why is there no DeFi chain booths, right? Or why are we not there? Why are we not doing this? Or why are we not having billboards all over the place?" You know what I mean? Everybody wants always more, 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 but nobody's doing it at the end because people are only demanding things. But where do you see the most important things to be done? What have we missed out on, or what's missing for you right now?
So I think you know before I came in, my feeling was, even when I had like interviews running off with like Fabio and stuff, I think one of the things that they lacked was like a clear strategy in terms of like how to grow and how to increase the visibility of DeFi chain because like there's a great community behind it, which is always powerful. But until you have like an outreach strategy to kind of go out without that or any kind of clear overarching
Hmm.
um I don't want to use the word strategy again because it sounds like I'm saying it a lot already, but that's pretty much the thing that was missing. So there was probably a lack of structure in terms of like, okay, we've got this thing. How do we then grow it and expand it? I think there was a lot of this is just from what I've been told. So I'm just reverberating what I've been told. That basically, they were just kind of doing things rather than planning and plotting in the future and then executing based upon that. So since I've came in, one of the things that we've done is like put a lot of strategy in place in terms of like let's just not just say we're going to do something and then just do it. Let's actually have a formal plan in terms of like let's look uh, at least a year ahead, and then let's look at where can we, for example, like the events, like what events would be relevant for us to go to and what would make sense versus which what wouldn't. Then it would be also okay, what kind of tactics can we do? So like um we had like things like the hackathon that has already been funded and stuff like that. That's stuff that we're working on right now.
Very
uh
exciting story. We should talk about this in our
yeah,
next question. Yeah.
it's we're deep into it right now. That's funny enough what my call was about just before
Ah,
I
okay,
jumped on
okay,
this.
okay.
So
Yeah, let's
yeah.
let's talk about that right away. So larger organized activities. And the hackathon, I think there was a lot of funding reserved already for that. So no, there are actually two, right? There's the hackathon, and there
Yeah,
were two projects. What was the other one?
learn
Hackathon
and earn.
and
The learn and earn.
yeah, learn and earn campaign. Okay, but that's more for the technical side. Let's talk a little bit about the hackathon. What's the plan here? When is it gonna start, and how is this gonna go down?
So the hackathon, basically, it aimed to be live by the end of November, early
Okay.
December. So essentially, we took this as an opportunity to kind of step our toes into different waters, but at the same time be accessible for everyone. So what's going to happen is there's going to be an in-person event over in India. So
Mm-hmm.
within the DeFi Chain Labs team, we have quite a few connections to India already. So
Okay, cool.
we have Via Prasanna, another core developer who I forget the name of now. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Harsh, I think his name is right. And Swanaba, our DevRel, lives in India. Um, so we ended up originally this came about. We were looking for different platforms and partners that would help us run a hackathon. We spoke to one called Devfolio, and they were very Indian based. They work with ETH Global, who run ETH India. So that's
Mm-hmm.
where we ended up speaking to them. Then it came down to this connection point of, well, there's a lot of things happening in India in terms of development. We've got a lot of the team from India. This could be a good opportunity for us to use the hackathon to step into new waters. So we'll have a little bit of an in-person event there. There might be a couple of tracks that would be in person only, to kind of encourage a new community within India.
Mm-hmm.
But also there'll be an online element as well. So one that it'll be the first weekend that it kicks off. That'll be in India, and then we'll have tracks of the hackathon that will run for about a week, maybe 10 days. I think I'm trying to remember the exact dates. Um, where it'll be accessible to everyone. So we kind of got like two birds with one stone in this hackathon. And with it being in India, we managed to reduce the costs of it. So within that CFP, we still had money left over. So that's why we started the Learn and Earn program, because we were speaking to a partner called StackUp, who are owned by a company called Tribe, and we had connections to them. So we learned about this Learn and Earn. The Learn and Earn is actually slightly different to a typical airdrop campaign where like you watch a couple of
A
videos or
video,
you
and
couple
then
of
and then you get a couple of
yeah, and
coins,
then you
right?
get like
Mm-hmm.
a bit of their crypto or wherever. This is like based around developers. So unless you're a developer, like, and maybe a little bit of you have a bit of developing knowledge, you
Mm-hmm.
probably like myself, I wouldn't be able to go much into it, because it's actually like you learn how to uh, mint a fungible token via a smart contract, and then part of it you have to create a AMM, automated market maker.
Market maker. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's a little bit heavily, well, it is quite heavily on the development side, but the idea is they learn about DeFi chain, the metachain layer, initially, and then they then start to learn how to develop on the metachain layer itself. So this is the idea. So the reason I'm talking about it quite heavily is because the Learn and Earn goes into the hackathon. The idea is to create a funnel where
Mm-hmm.
like we grow the chain by attracting new developers into the chain itself. So the Learn and Earn is step one. We kind of encourage people to learn about um, DeFi chain initially. We incentivize that. Then it's learning how to develop on the metachain layer within the Learn and Earn itself. So the idea is they get more interested in DeFi chain itself and developing on it. And then it's like, okay, now that the learning now is complete, guess what? We've got this hackathon coming up. So now you've got the next step in the funnel where like they're moving from point A to point B, and we're trying to push them more heavily into the DeFi chain world. Um, so that's kind of like how they combine, and the method and the madness, so to speak, as to why we're doing these two things. And yeah, so we were quite fortunate that the cost of the hackathon, we managed to keep them quite low, that then we could create a first step in the funnel, to make the hackathon more successful as well, and also grow the chain at the same time.
Okay, so the idea is to go the way through the developers and not so much the investor route where you say come in, buy the coin. It's more like build something. We've got a fantastic system, very secure, capable of doing smart contracts, and now do something great. And then maybe these new products are coming out of this that attract more new fresh capital. Because one of the things that I think is really really relevant for DeFi chain, right? A lot of new projects are coming, and I'm a little bit. I don't want to say I'm worried, but I'm gonna see there's gonna be maybe a little bit of DeFi chain community will jump from project to project, like kind of to, yeah, maybe get the best APRs or whatever. Like it's kind of an incest story that could be happening, right? Cannibalism here. And I think it's really important to get fresh capital in and to bring new people to DeFi chain, because otherwise, yeah, it's gonna be not so exciting. We want a lot of new attention, and I think that's why I like your idea a lot. It brings some new eyes or interest to the whole project, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, that essentially that's my job at the end of the day, is to grow the chain itself. So that brings in all those different aspects, not just like bringing in new community members, but also heavily developing, heavily growing the development of DeFi chain itself. So yeah, we're always looking for like new projects, and we want to kind of avoid the situation that you're talking about, where like it's essentially like people bouncing from project to project. Because at the end of the day, growth is better for everyone. If there's more, like you're saying, more capital, then there's more money to go around for everyone to kind of
Mm,
work on their projects and be successful. So it only really helps everyone at the same time to grow
yeah,
ultimately,
absolutely.
right? So
One thing that you mentioned before that you don't like in crypto, and I completely agree, is this tribalism, right? So these extremist views, and even it's not politics. This coin is good. This coin is bad. Also, this kind of section is good. Or you see a lot of people being very religious about their beliefs in crypto, and I've seen this in the community also, right? So
yeah,
it's not so much that they kind of vote for one. Yeah, but there are a lot of teams and they don't like each other, right? And there's a lot of hate sometimes going on. Completely ridiculous, because I think at the end of the day, we are all in the same project, but we don't. There are really people who don't like each other, right? There's a lot of energy lost, friction. So how do you think we can get better here? Because I think Fabio is working on this DeFighter 2.0 approach, right? Where we say there are a lot of people that are passionate out there, but we are not always passionate for the same things, right? We are passionate about hating each other, passionate about tearing the other's tower down, and not so much about building together. I would love to see much more unity. How do you think you can support this? What's your approach? What's your plan here? How can we unite the community? I have the feeling we are a little bit lost at the moment.
well, I mean, it's a difficult thing to manage, right? Like you look at politicians, and you're never going to be making everyone happy
That's
at one
right.
time, right?
Hmm.
So the problem is like tribalism is pretty much within our nature anyway. So like everyone has different opinions in terms of like tribalism comes from wherever you're from, your religion, all these different type of things. So it also includes opinions, and unfortunately, people are always just going to have difference in opinions. But I think essentially if you can help people unite towards a bigger goal, so like you look at I don't want to use religions as an example, but like you have different denominations of a religion, but ultimately the goal is the same. You all pray to, within your religion, you pray to pretty much the same god usually. So if the vision itself can be unified, then generally people get on with each other. They might just then have difference of opinions in terms of like the intricacies of things that happen in the meantime. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is like if if the community is largely aligned in terms of like the grand division, then it's fine to argue about the finer details that go into that, because people have got their own opinions on how things should be done and what ways it should go. Um, unfortunately, it's just never going to be 100% peaceful.
I
But
agree. I
as long,
agree.
yeah, I think one of the things I see, a bit better from the DeFi chain community versus other communities is that it's a little bit more mature in the conversations that they have. So, like, some projects, you look at them and they're like arguing and they're getting really offended by,
So
someone
even
that,
even even more than in our community, sometimes I
oh
already
yeah,
think this is like a little bit child play here.
no, 100%. I think it's a little bit more mature in the DeFi community from what I've seen,
Wow. Okay.
compared to some other projects. Because, but that's fine to have differences. I think it's healthy as well because you got to be able to have discussions. It's just
No,
how those discussions happen, right?
no,
So,
exactly. No, I also don't want that you kind of misunderstand wrong. I think there are a lot of really, really great people in the community, and I think everybody always says the DeFi chain community is special. But I kind of thriving for even a better kind of environment. And I think price action was also a little bit fueling a lot of these arguments because people are kind of yeah, on the edge, right? Nobody likes the price to go down, and it's in bull markets people love each other much more. Like everybody took the happy pill, and then in bear markets it's people are more edgy. But I think that's why I also love what you guys are up to, because you say we need a vision that we can unify around, and we need a long-term plan that we can work towards too, because I think there's a lot of good stuff happening, right? Like it's all small islands that are kind of trying to do their part. Okay, some people don't do anything, they only complain, but then you have a lot of builders and they build cool stuff. But now it's about putting everything together and making it a big thing. Like it's, I mean, I don't want to use kind of things in a military context, but an aircraft carrier alone is big and powerful, but at the end you can sink it easily. You need a battle group around it, right? And I think the DeFi chain community can be kind of that battle group. We have this massive shit DeFi chain, and then we've got the DMC projects surrounding it, and we've got like the little soldiers who are the DeFighters who kind of put everything together. And I think now we need a vision and a clear plan, where do we march or what to protect or where do we go. And I think that's very important what you and Fabio are doing, like to uniting and putting the plan out there, right? You can have the best army, if there's nobody who says we sail that direction, then you're gonna be screwed and shot down sooner or later anyway, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a perfect analogy for it. So, yeah, I think ultimately, if you're able to just have that unifying umbrella, then generally it should be fine. It should relieve a lot of the friction.
Yeah. And that was also one of the reasons why I said it's really important that you come online, that people see you there's somebody. Uh, not only a name, but also that they can put a face to the story. And what I've seen, you did a couple of really cool things. You started a spotlight project, for example, something that didn't exist so far. Maybe explain a little bit for the people who haven't heard what's the spotlight project, because I think that's awesome and that's really a step in the super right direction.
Yeah, 100%. So this whole thing came about, like, my goal is to grow DeFi chain itself, but that also includes the projects involved. So the whole idea was to shine a light on the projects that are actually building on DeFi chain itself. So hence the name Project Spotlight.
Hmm.
So the idea is that we basically help support projects by giving them more visibility to the wider DeFi chain community. Because as much as, like, sometimes, you might be in a DeFi chain bubble and you think you know everything, not everyone is aware of everything that's happening. So
Exactly.
yeah, that is literally the idea, is that we make the community aware of what's happening, and give those projects the chance to kind of tell their story, make people understand what it is that they're doing, how it benefits DeFi chain as well. So the idea is kind of like, we all kind of grow together, as cheesy as that sounds, but that's essentially what happens. Like, if the blockchain can't grow without the projects, and the projects can't grow without the blockchain, so it's kind of like we have to help each other out. So that's the idea. So um, we do have plans to kind of help projects a little bit more in the future. Nothing super concrete apart from the Learn and Earn hackathon, but we're looking at other ways to support projects. So this was one step that we took to kind of help them. Um, I do have a lot of communication with different projects as well, so I'm trying to help them in any different ways that I can on that side of things. So if you are building on DeFi chain, you want like a little bit more exposure, or see like you need a little bit of help on anything, my Twitter, I think the DMs are open, so you can always DM there. And I have a lot of connection with people on Telegram. Probably won't hand that out thinking about that now I've just said that, but I'm happy to give it to people who reach out to me, and then we can talk more there. But yeah, in the future, we're thinking of different ways to also help grow the projects beyond the project spotlight as well. We'll probably have a bit more concrete information on that maybe in the next 2 to 3 months. Saying that as a longer time frame, but also if anyone does have any ideas around what we can do to help as well, that'd be great. So yeah, I'm
I,
always happy to take ideas on anything as well.
I love it because it's more like you see this ecosystem, right? You want to grow the ecosystem. You don't want to only grow DeFi chain. It's so many things evolving around that. And I think to make the whole system stronger. So if anyone is building out there and Liam haven't heard about you, then get in touch. I think that was a clear call out or shout out. Get in touch with him. He's happy to give you some airtime and to support you guys. You're not alone out there. It's hard enough to build a project, but you need allies and friends. So Liam is one of your friends from now on, I guess.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So
Liam, we're approaching the hour, or we just passed the 1 hour mark. Last words. What do you wish for? If you can address the audience, what do you want from the audience? What do you want from the community? What do you want from the investors out there? Is there something what we haven't touched? What you just wanna like kind of famous last words?
famous last words. I feel like I'm going to a death sentence now.
No, we're not going that far, but
I think from the community, like I know sometimes things might seem, what's the phrase? I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, but basically, like whenever something's happening, there's always method behind it. That's madness. Like I said about like the learning and the hackathon. Sometimes that seems like a bit random, but it is part of a wider strategy for
okay.
things. So I guess maybe like if there's any concerns, anything like that, always feel free to reach out to me. I'll be as open and transparent as possible. And then in terms of like if you do have any, like I said, any ideas in terms of like helping different projects or the ecosystem as in general, feel free to reach out to me, and my Twitter will always remain open. I just have to then keep aware of scammers, but I'm willing to do that so that I can keep in touch, because I've got a lot of contact with a lot of different community members. Since I've started it, it's my DMs have been non-stop on Telegram, so I'm always happy to take calls and stuff like that, and discuss certain things and see where I can help. Because, like you said, at the end of the day, it's not just DeFi chain; it's the ecosystem, really, more so than anything that is the growth. So that would probably be the things that I would say to close off.
And you can also connect them to other members in the team if there's some certain needs, right? You're not
Yeah, exactly.
the only guy there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I can't help you technical wise, so but I'll put you in contact with someone that can. So like one of the initiatives that we did start just on that point is the developer Discord, that is available. The idea was to improve the communication between core development and community developers. So there will be more initiatives like this coming up to help. But in the meantime, if there's something that you can't get, just reach out to me, and I'll
Cool.
point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Good development. I really love it. Liam, thanks so much for coming on, talking about your background a little bit more and what you're doing now. I think this is really valuable information. And yeah, thanks for taking the time. The coughing is
Yeah.
gone. You said you feel a little bit sick and you have to cough. You didn't cough one time, see?
Thankfully not. No,
Unbelievable,
I was
right?
really expecting it to happen. Actually, sorry, no, I did. I did cough twice, but I muted the microphone.
Very smart, very smart. I just want to say, so guys, if you feel sick and you want to be healthy again, come to the fireside chat. I cure you in an hour. It's all perfect. Liam, thank you so much. That was awesome. I had a great time. Thanks for taking the time and talking a little bit about what you guys are up to. Really
Yeah, it's
appreciate
been a
it.
pleasure, man.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Guys,
Thanks so much.
I hope you're out there who had a good time. You found some new interesting things out about Liam and his DeFi Chain Labs team and all the people working behind it. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, reach out to Liam if you want to know something. And yeah, we're saying that have a good evening and see you next time at the next DeFi Chain Fireside Chat. Have a good evening and bye-bye.
Take care, guys.